relationships are just complicated, and you can not want to be with somebody but still find them attractive in other ways. And it's complicated, right?
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I don't know. It was exciting to work.
Okay, so listen, Scarlett Johansson may have just dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming. One unexpected comment about working with Justin Baldoni's production studio suddenly pulled her into the middle of the Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds controversy. It all began with one seemingly simple question. What was it really like for Scarlett to work with Baldoni's Wayfarer Studios while his legal battle with Blake Lively was unfolding? Her response was brief, but the timing was enough to send fans into a frenzy.
I myself was actually in the middle of going through a divorce, and it was such a strange coincidence, actually.
In a Vanity Fair interview, Scarlett Johansson sat down for another promotional appearance, and it seemed almost inevitable that the conversation would eventually turn to Justin Baldoni and the legal battle that had dominated Hollywood headlines for months. The interviewer brought up the accusations surrounding Baldoni and Blake Lively, asking about the controversy and the intense back and forth that had unfolded publicly. And this is where Scarlett's reaction caught everyone's attention. Instead of giving the kind of emotional or bitter response people might have expected, she simply laughed before explaining that her experience working with Baldoni's production company had actually been positive. She described the team as supportive and professional, making it clear that her own experience didn't match the narrative surrounding the controversy. Of course, fans immediately began connecting the dots. Scarlett's history with Ryan Reynolds made the moment feel even more significant to people who have followed Hollywood's relationship timelines. Scarlett and Ryan met while working on the Green Lantern, eventually married, and later announced their divorce in 2010. Ryan went on to marry Blake Lively, creating a relationship timeline that has been analyzed by fans for years. That's why Scarlett's calm reaction sparked so much speculation. Some viewers interpreted her laugh and her comments about working with Baldoni as subtle shade toward Blake, especially given the timing of everything happening around Wayfarer Studios and the ongoing legal controversy. But Scarlett never explicitly accused Blake of anything, and her comments about her own experience with Baldoni stand on their own. Still, the internet did what it always does. One brief laugh, one positive comment, and suddenly fans were revisiting an entire decade of Hollywood history, wondering whether Scarlett had just said far more than she actually intended.
I internalized that if your end goal is just to be a movie star, well, that's different than act.
For years, Ryan Reynolds benefited from a carefully polished public image, the funny, charming husband who seemed almost incapable of doing anything wrong. That image made it easy for people to believe the picture of a perfect Hollywood romance that Ryan and Blake Lively presented to the world. But now, after Scarlett Johansson's recent comments, old questions about how that relationship began are suddenly resurfacing. Scarlett never directly accused Blake of having an affair with Ryan, and she has not publicly claimed that Blake was responsible for the end of her marriage. But her reaction was enough to send social media into overdrive. Suddenly, people were revisiting the timeline of Ryan and Blake's relationship and asking questions that had largely faded from the spotlight. Did Blake and Ryan's relationship begin earlier than the public was led to believe? Was there something happening behind the scenes that Scarlett knew about but chose never to discuss publicly? And if Scarlett has remained silent about certain details for all these years, could there be more to the story than fans ever realized? Almost immediately, old interviews with Scarlett began circulating again. Fans started re-examining comments she made about her divorce, searching for clues and moments that might take on a different meaning in hindsight. What once sounded like ordinary reflections on a failed marriage suddenly seemed much more intriguing to people determined to connect the dots. But here's the important distinction. Speculation is not proof. Scarlett has never publicly confirmed that Blake destroyed her marriage or that an affair caused her divorce from Ryan. What has changed is the conversation. One unexpected moment has reopened a chapter of Hollywood history that many people thought was already closed, and now everyone wants to know what really happened behind the scenes.
I believe very much in integrity and the importance of integrity, and I felt like both of those circumstances I felt like it was important for me to maintain integrity in the face of both of those circumstances, and so I didn't feel scared.
To understand why Scarlett's comments are suddenly getting so much attention, we have to go back to where the story really began. In September 2008, Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Reynolds quietly exchanged vows in a private ceremony in British Columbia. At the time, they looked like one of Hollywood's ultimate power couples. Ryan was building his reputation with movies like Van Wilder and Waiting, while Scarlett's career was exploding and she was already on her way to becoming one of Marvel's biggest stars as Black Widow. From the outside, their marriage seemed almost untouchable. But according to claims that have circulated about their relationship, problems began appearing behind the scenes not long after the wedding. Some accounts have portrayed Ryan as demanding and difficult during the marriage, suggesting that Scarlett was sometimes expected to work her life around his schedule and priorities. At the same time, Scarlett's career continued moving upward while Ryan was still searching for his next major breakthrough. That difference in professional momentum allegedly created tension within the relationship, with some reports portraying a growing imbalance between the two stars. And then came Green Lantern. Ryan met Blake Lively while filming the 2011 superhero movie, and their connection quickly became one of Hollywood's biggest talking points. That timing is precisely why the old relationship timeline continues to attract scrutiny today. Fans have spent years debating whether the problems in Ryan and Scarlett's marriage were already irreversible before Blake entered the picture, or whether something happened behind the scenes that the public never fully understood. What we know for certain is that Ryan and Scarlett's divorce was announced in December 2010, and Ryan and Blake later began dating before marrying in 2012. Everything beyond those established facts remains a matter of speculation unless the people involved confirm it themselves.
She runs the company that he works for, and in moments of weakness when he's not sure that he wants to save the world because he is just a man, she is there to encourage him and help him see and fulfill his potential.
Blake Lively was cast as Carol Ferris, while Ryan Reynolds played Hal Jordan, putting the two stars together as the movie's central romantic pairing. It was the classic superhero setup, but according to the version of events that has circulated online, the chemistry between them allegedly didn't stay confined to the screen. Some accounts have claimed that Blake quickly became interested in Ryan during production, with stories about the two spending time together away from the set, including a reported cooking outing in New Orleans. On the surface, it could have looked completely innocent, especially since they were working together. But because Ryan was still married to Scarlett at the time, those stories later became part of the speculation surrounding the timeline of their relationship. Rumors also began circulating about Ryan and Blake spending significant time together during filming, leading some people to believe their relationship had become more than professional. Scarlett was reportedly aware that her marriage was facing serious problems, but there is no reliable public evidence confirming that she confronted Blake or that an affair took place while Ryan was still married. What is established is that Ryan and Scarlett announced their separation in December 2010, while Green Lantern was filmed earlier that year. Ryan and Blake subsequently began dating, and their relationship quickly became public before they married in 2012. That timeline is why the story continues to generate so much speculation. The public knows when the major events happened, but the private details of what happened between those events remain known only to the people involved.
We just had chemistry, and chemistry really genuinely is one of the few things in film that you can't just invent or create. It's either there or it's not. So it was fantastic working with Blake. I mean, she just brought every part of herself, and she's not kidding when she says she'd get off set at 1 in the morning and she'd be back over in New Orleans shooting at 6 a.m.
The timeline becomes even more intriguing when you look at the dates closely. Filming for Green Lantern wrapped in August 2010, and shortly afterward, reports surfaced of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively being spotted together in New York City, with one waitress claiming the two appeared to be on what looked like a romantic date, laughing, flirting, and behaving more like a couple than co-stars. Then, on December 14th, 2010, Ryan and Scarlett Johansson publicly announced their separation, while Ryan maintained that he had never cheated on Scarlett and that he and Blake were simply friends during filming. While there's no confirmed evidence proving an affair, the timing has fueled speculation for years, and some fans believe Ryan's statement was intended to protect his public image, while those closest to the situation remained silent. To critics, the sequence of events makes Blake's eventual relationship with Ryan look suspiciously convenient, as though she stepped into his life just as his marriage to Scarlett was coming to an end.
Being a woman, 20-something-year-old in the early 2000s, being a 20-year-old woman in the early 2000s, in the spotlight, I think in general, it was a really harsh time. I think women were just pulled apart.
Blake Lively's relationship timeline with Ryan Reynolds has continued to fuel speculation, especially when viewed alongside her breakup with Penn Badgley and her highly publicized connection to Leonardo DiCaprio. After ending things with Penn, Blake was frequently photographed with DiCaprio, including during their widely reported summer romance, while her growing connection with Ryan remained a subject of intense public curiosity. To some fans, the sequence created the impression that Blake had simply moved from Penn to Leo and then to Ryan, making her relationship with Ryan appear completely separate from the end of Ryan's marriage to Scarlett Johansson. The speculation intensified at the June 2011 Green Lantern premiere, where Ryan and Blake appeared noticeably close despite Blake still being linked to DiCaprio at the time. Meanwhile, Ryan was publicly insisting that he had no plans to get married again and that dating felt unfamiliar after his divorce from Scarlett. Those comments became difficult for fans to reconcile when Ryan and Blake married in September 2012, less than 2 years after his separation from Scarlett. That rapid transition inevitably led people to question whether Ryan and Blake's relationship had developed earlier than the public timeline suggested, although there has never been confirmed evidence proving that they were romantically involved before Ryan's marriage ended.
It's really disagreeable. She's really harsh. But I also was like, yeah, I guess she is. But people have their stuff, right? And you can't what's the purpose of making her kinder to her daughter?
For years, the public has heard the story that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively supposedly realized they had incredible chemistry during a double date with other people, eventually discovering that they were meant to be together. But that version of events has always left room for questions, particularly because the timeline surrounding Ryan's divorce from Scarlett Johansson and his relationship with Blake was already under intense scrutiny. Some accounts have even alleged that the story was carefully crafted by Ryan's public relations team to present their romance in a cleaner, more convenient way. Scarlett, meanwhile, has largely stayed out of the public drama and never publicly accused Blake of breaking up her marriage. While Blake and Ryan went on to build an image as Hollywood's playful power couple, joking about each other online, sharing family moments, and presenting themselves as a relatable married duo, Scarlett continued with her own life and career. Now, amid renewed attention surrounding Blake, Ryan, and the controversy involving Wayfarer Studios, fans are once again looking back at Scarlett's history with Ryan and wondering whether she has known more about the situation than she ever chose to reveal. And that is why even a seemingly harmless comment from Scarlett can suddenly feel significant to people who have been following the story for years. 5 simple words, delivered without an accusation, were enough to send the internet searching for a deeper meaning behind the timing.
I was so surprised when he called me 10 years later, 15 years later, to meet and talk about something. I just thought, it was totally came out of...
Blake Lively's career has often been compared with Scarlett Johansson's, and that comparison has only become more striking as the years have passed. While Scarlett went on to become one of the MCU's most recognizable stars, earn major awards recognition, and expand her career into producing and directing, Blake faced criticism over several business ventures, public controversies, and her widely criticized 2012 wedding in South Carolina. The contrast became even more interesting when Scarlett announced her directorial debut with Wayfarer Studios in 2023, placing her project within the same professional orbit as Justin Baldoni and Blake. From there, online speculation began portraying the situation as a rivalry, suggesting Blake wanted greater influence over the project and was determined to prove herself creatively. However, claims that Blake deliberately tried to take over Scarlett's movie, refused intimacy coordinators, or behaved toward Baldoni in a particular way are allegations that should not be presented as established facts without reliable evidence. What is clear is that the controversy surrounding It Ends With Us transformed what might otherwise have been an ordinary Hollywood production into a much larger debate about creative control, professional boundaries, and the relationships between the people involved.